Hey guys, it is time for another Student Spotlight. In this Student Spotlight, I'm going to help Nolan with some of his alternate picking technique, and hopefully some of this will help you as well with yours. And if you have any questions of your own, please submit them. You'll see the link below for the Student Spotlight video uploader, and I will probably respond to them on YouTube as well. So before we get into it, let's check out Nolan's video.
So I feel like I struggle most with picking technique, and what I mean is when I try and play a fast lick in a metal song or just trying to play a scale really fast, I think I'm not getting anywhere. Like I start out slow at first and I try and pick up the speed and play faster, but it feels like I'm doing something wrong, and I think it may have something to do with my right hand. Maybe the angle that my pick is at or the position of my hand. So like an example would be like the fast part in the solo Call of Cthulhu by Metallica, where Kirk Hammett is doing that scale. I struggle with that, and I don't really know what I'm doing wrong, if I'm doing anything wrong. So I'm going to play that part right now, and hopefully you can figure out what I'm doing wrong, if anything. Alright, here I go.
All right, so I think we see some things here that I can help you with, Nolan. So I've mentioned this before, since Nolan recently joined my academy, and which you can see a link for in the description below as well. And so he's been asking some of these questions. So I've been helping him already a little bit, so he knows what I'm going to say here, but he wanted to see it, a video representation of it. So basically a few things. It's not that bad. But I think it's a pretty easy fix. So what's going on is when you're playing, you have a couple of things that are happening. One is, and probably the worst thing that's kind of hurting your technique, is you're not fully supporting your hand here. Now, I know that there are players out there that have a completely floating picking hand, and they do a pretty good job of it, some of them. However, 99% of people who are very good, and especially play very fast picking, have their hand planted in some fashion down here. Some people go really extreme with it and plant their fingers. Some just kind of plant the inside of their palm, the edge of their palm on the guitar. That's kind of how I like to do it. My fingers are on the guitar, but I'm not really putting weight into them. Now, the reason I say do that, when you put your hand down onto the guitar, when you do that, you can start to just kind of create the sensation of almost dead weight in your hand. So that way you're really kind of removing, if you're picking from mid-air, you're going to have to use muscles in your arm and higher up your arm, maybe sometimes all the way up into your shoulder or whatever, to kind of control where you're going to be in mid-air, and kind of control your movements in mid-air. So if you plant your hand, and my favorite pickers from Al Di Meola or whatever, you'll always see that their hand is planted, and it gives them a lot of stability in their hand, so that they can just use like the wrist as a fulcrum, and you can create a very relaxed feel because you're laying on something. So you're not really pushing hard on it, you're just using it as a little stability, okay? So that's the important thing. Now where my hand is touching is right around here, kind of this muscle right here that is like below the pinky here. It kind of makes up the outside of your palm. So this kind of area right here, right where it meets the wrist, is where I'm planting. And I'm just kind of relaxed on it. And I just kind of chill out. And I make sure the picking can then come from the wrist, because I'm very relaxed and almost like using this as like a fulcrum point. Now, when I get to that, when you get that going, so do that separately first. Then we can work on the picking technique itself. Your picking technique is a little bit wide, meaning that the picking strokes are going way past the string. So you need to tighten that up. You want to just basically pick far enough to get through the string. That's all you need. So it's a very small motion in the wrist. So that small motion right there requires very little energy, okay? So a larger motion creates not only requires more energy, but it also requires you to have more accuracy because you're pulling yourself further away from the string. So if you stay closer to the string, it's going to be easier to hit the next time. So tighten up those pick strokes. The best way to do that is just kind of practice picking on one string at first, so you can just really watch it. Okay, so obviously if you're picking and it's going all the way over where the next string is at when you're picking, even though you're not hitting those strings, but you're going that far, you should be able to stay inside of that, of those two strings around it. So don't ever go that far. And then the third concept that I talked to you about, I think you have the hardest issue, understanding, is that when you started picking, you had a nice pick angle, wherever you wanted to start. Everybody sometimes have an extreme, like 45-degree angle. Some people are a little bit more parallel. But the more angle you have, the more it kind of slices through the string. So we have this pick angle here, and if you watch your part of the video, you're going to have that pick angle looks real nice on the high E string. And then as you worked your way down, that pick angle was almost parallel to the string. So the way you hit this string is changing as you go across. And as you go across, what's happening is you're getting more parallel, which means that the string is giving you more resistance as you're going across. So obviously that more resistance requires more energy to get through the string. So you're doing that because you're using your wrist to change the strings. You're doing that. So your wrist is straight when you start, which is what it should stay completely all the time. And then as you get down here, your wrist is deviated, it's going down, and then it comes back this way. So it's kind of angled. So that creates not only tension in your wrist and your forearm, which prevents you from being quick, but it also makes every string feel different, which you don't want. The way to prevent that is keep your wrist straight, and then you use a small elbow movement to take you from string to string. So look, I have this angle. The pick is angled, how it's there compared to my arm. And then when I take it to the low E string, it stays the same. So what happens, it's a very small movement in your elbow, and that's the only thing. You don't want to pick from your elbow. The elbow can just take you to the proper strings when you're doing this kind of single note solo and stuff like this. So I'm just... See that? Everything stayed the same. So now strings have different, obviously string tensions and stuff. But since I'm attacking each string the same, the difference is not that bad because every time my pick hits a string, it's at the same angle. So it pretty much it feels the same to me as I go across. All right, so that is what you want to work on, small motions. You don't have to work on going from the high E to the low E all the time, even though in the beginning that might help you because you can really feel the motion in the elbow. But for the most part, you just work with like 3 strings, making sure that you're keeping that angle, and that's going to speed you up, make it a lot easier to get across the strings. All right, so I hope this helps, and please, anybody else that wants to ask me a question in this Student Spotlight series, send them on in. You'll see the link in the description. Thanks. I'll see you soon.